Hey, what's up? My name is Jose Duncan Jr., and I would like to welcome you to the Unnatural Born Leader podcast. Hey, what's up? Welcome to episode 34 of the Unnatural Born Leader podcast. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in today. Thank you for tapping this podcast, and thank you once again for listening. Today I'm feeling great. Not every day I'm feeling great, but today I'm feeling great. And the days I'm not feeling great, don't be fooled. I'm still getting after it. But today I want to come on and talk about something that's very relevant, something that I've always known in a weird way, but something I haven't always embraced. And a lot of you may also feel this same thing and have thoughts about this same notion, but it's definitely a difficult one to capture and to do consistently. And when we're trying to do this particular thing that I'm talking about, it's difficult because we are intelligent people. We are competent. We are adequate at knowing certain things, applying certain knowledge, and we treat ourselves as if we are respectively educated in certain areas. And that is true, and you don't spend all this time in a school system getting this education to not use this education. But this is something that I truly believe has been part of the game-changing things that has helped me as a person, certainly has helped me as a teammate in the past, and helps me as a leader now. And not only lead myself, but lead others who I come in contact with. And that is all about being the dumbest person in the room. While this can get a bad rap, it's not the most, I guess, respectful thing to say, depending on the context in which you take it in. But being the dumbest person in the room is kind of a saying that, sometimes can be misinterpreted. But what I believe and what I've been taught about this notion of being the dumbest person in the room is just having this overwhelming willingness to listen and not speak, be seen but not heard, and be in environments that people are educated and they may know more than you, or they know more about a subject, a something going on, something that you are not as educated with. And even if you are educated, you are competent in that subject matter, not feeling that you need to always express that in every environment you get into. So being the dumbest person in the room has something that I would say I struggle with. As a leader, as someone who has an opinion, as someone who prides himself on telling authenticated truth, sometimes it's hard to be silent. Or when you're around people, you want to express your knowledge. You want to express the things that you've been researching. You want to express how capable you are of holding that conversation. And it's taken me a lot of soul searching to realize that me speaking certainly helps someone else, but me listening certainly helps myself a lot more. And what's special about me listening, and something I've always picked up, is just people will say and do certain things that resonate with you in that moment, or they may express something that you may have not thought about in that particular perspective. And in that moment, you may receive some type of education or energy that you can use in your life again. And when it's time to educate others, you can only hope that someone's there to reciprocate it like you were for the person that gave you that information. But being the dumbest person in the room is definitely something that I think as young individuals, we need to pick up more on. And it's not always easy when we feel like we're amongst the most educated and capable people amongst our friends and our peers. But there's something to be learned from everyone. And we learn that as athletes early on because we're talked to a lot. We have a lot of meetings where coaches and mentors and higher ups are speaking, and we're asked to just sit there and listen. And those who actually listen attentively and was looking for some value may have got some value. And when it made sense in life, we may have applied that knowledge we learned. But it started from us listening. So as athletes, we always were being talked to. Whether we felt like we were the dumbest person in the room or not, we definitely knew less than those up there speaking. And what I think is special about that is that information and knowledge from that person resonate with people differently, and it allows them to form their own perspective and opinion about what's being said. So being the dumbest person in the room has allowed me to collect so much information, so much knowledge, and apply it to my life. Everything I speak about, everything I talk about with my friends, or everything I put in my book is predicated towards how I was able to listen and just follow for a little while and be the dumbest person in the room and ask all the questions and be open to new ideas and not going to new environments thinking that I know best, that I was the smartest, but instead going into these new environments just saying, hey, I'm here to just soak it up. I'm just here to just listen and learn. And when the time is right, I can share my ideas and my thoughts. But everything I speak about is geared towards that. I learned how to listen at a young age, partially because I was disciplined a lot and growing up African American, a young black kid in New York City. You had a lot of people talking to you, giving you game, telling you right from wrong, telling you how you should move, finesse, how to work the system, how to survive, how to take care of yourself, how to stay out of trouble. And it's easy. It was easy for me to be like, yeah, man, I know best. I know what I'm doing out here. I got this. But I learned quickly that, hey, I don't want to make a bunch of mistakes that other people have made. And while I know I'm going to make mistakes, I don't want to make the same mistakes over and over, especially when someone has presented these mistakes to me before. So I guess that fear of not wanting to make those same mistakes caused me to listen more. I wanted to listen and knew how I can take preventative steps or be proactive in not making those mistakes and being able to make new mistakes that I can teach younger kids when I get older. But that being the dumbest person in the room has been something that's certainly helped me. And I know it says dumbest person in the room, but just being a beginner in every environment you go into, even if you feel like you're the most competent and capable person in that room, be willing to be nobody in that room. Be willing to just listen. And it may be less educated people speaking, but there's still value in that. And I know it sounds crazy, and I know it sounds weird, especially when you're very educated, especially when you're passionate about a subject field. You feel like, man, I got to talk right away. I got to share my passion. And there's someone that needs you to share that passion, and you should share that passion. But always listen first. Always listen first. As leaders, we spend our time leading ourselves, listening to ourselves, taking a back seat to our ego sometimes. And while I think it's important to step up and take control of some of these things, it's also special when we can take time to listen. Take time in silence to just understand what our minds are telling us, understand what our body's feeling, and just listen. Be open to new information that your conscience is telling you. Be open to how your intuition is steering you in different directions. Question it. Question it. Back in school when teachers be like, hey, there's no such thing as a dumb question. There really isn't. Obviously, you want to be able to listen and pick up information and not ask the same questions that someone else asks. But there is no such thing as a dumb question. I had a mentor who told me, smartest people ask the most questions. It makes complete sense. Smartest people aren't always smartest because they knew everything, but instead they were willing to ask the questions and collect the information. They'll ask questions. It actually makes it easier on them for someone to give you the answer than you have to go find the answer yourself. So while I think there is some derogatory context to being the dumbest person in the room, I do think that being an extreme way to say it gives people an idea of what it means to be a beginner. I've talked about this word in the past, and I know you guys, if you've listened to episodes before, I've spoken about this, and it's also something I mentioned in the book pretty heavily as well. This word Shoshin, it's a Zen Buddhist term, and it means beginner's mind. It refers to having an attitude of openness, an attitude of eagerness, and a lack of preconception when introduced to a new subject or a new idea. And when I learned the word Shoshin and researched it and looked it up, it made complete sense for my life. Because I had a huge ego. At times, I still operate through my ego, but I have more control of it now. I've definitely talked about in the past this idea of not getting rid of the ego. We need our ego. I don't care what no one tells you. You need a part of your ego. You're going to need that for certain things in your life. But I've had a huge ego, and it's been hard for me to apply the Shoshin mentality and have that beginner's mind. It can feel like a setback at times when you're going into new environments and you're excited and anxious, but then you have to go in and be nobody. And everyone's expecting you to be the smart guy, expecting you to be something. And you go in and you're like, listen, I'm just here to learn. I'm just here to soak it up. And I've found that having that mentality, that Shoshin, beginner's mind mentality when entering new environments, helps you be even more exceptional because you have these raw talents, this raw capability, this raw leadership. And then you're going into this environment and you're saying, I'm not here to flex those muscles. I'm simply here to learn and soak up and get as much information, much perception as I can so I can be even better. People respect that. Sometimes it can be a shock, right? Especially if you have a strong personality. People may be shocked as to why you have this beginner's type energy. But people respect that. People respect that you're willing to learn from them. You're willing to hear them out. You're willing to just take in a new perception, that you're not stuck in a certain mindset, a certain way of thinking. People love that because then they're able to share their ideas with you, their perception of certain things with you. And you will benefit greatly from taking in new perspectives because while your perspective may or may not be the right one, taking in a new perspective gives you another way to see it. So if you're working in different environments where you're selling something, you're giving a service, you have a business, you have an LLC, you have a product that you're promoting, knowing how different people perceive what you're doing helps you be even more exceptional when selling that thing or when servicing that person. So I've experienced that in my life, and every time I enter new environments or take on something new, it's hard for me, but I go into it with a beginner's mind that I know nothing at all, I've never been here, I'm not the smartest, this is all new to me, even if it's not. And that really helps me take in new information and not have these preconceived things that I think are best for that environment. So I'm in the client business. I'm a fitness professional, and I'm in a client business. And, I tell my girlfriend all the time, there's a big difference between a customer and a client. Client-based services or client-based businesses takes a lot more relationship building and listening. And your clients almost become like your what feeds you. It what put food on the table. They put food on the table because they have to be satisfied with the services that you're providing, right? And what something I've learned about working with clients is that I must always be willing to produce more value in some way, shape, or form. Or the value that I'm already presenting, I have to be consistent with time and time again, right? So there's two ways to treat that client-based service. Either you can really be consistent across the board each time, not be too innovative, not be too progressive in different things, but you're consistent in getting the results. Or you can be very innovative, very progressive, very new value, new systems, and introducing a variety. It's all about gauging that client, knowing what that client likes. Maybe they like a little bit of both. Maybe they like to just stay steady and consistent. Some people like the more exciting environment or service. So it's all about gauging that client and deciding what way you can go to get them to continue to pay for your services, to continue to put that price tag on something that you're providing them. And as a fitness professional, I get the opportunity to get great education on personalities and people. And what I've learned about people is that there are many different personality types. You have the dominant, you have the conscientious personality type, you have the influencer personality type. And these type of personalities tell you just a small amount of what a person likes or what a person really lights them up inside. So in that sense, once you get the idea of who the person is you're dealing with, and I'm talking about anyone that you're servicing or providing value to, whether it's a price tag on it or they're a friend, there's a certain level of willingness to learn new ways to bring value to that person's life. And if you think you've been providing value for a long time and you've been doing it great and you don't think there's nothing you can change, then that's when you messed up. You always have to be thinking, how can I bring more value to this person? And if you are someone who just wants to keep it a steady pace and always be consistent, then you always have to keep yourself sharp. And in order to do that, you always need to be learning. So that takes me back to my point of just being the dumbest person in the room, because in order to continuously learn, you have to continuously question the things you already know and allow new information to enter. You have to. You have to question what you know. And it's extremely difficult because you built this understanding of yourself and comfort, and finally you're okay with who you are, and now you're ready to step into this person and take off like a rocket ship. But there's a small bit of humility that needs to be there. That small bit of humility tells you, like, you know what? Even after everything I've done to build myself up and take off, I still know nothing. I still know nothing. And I know it sounds crazy, but that has to be somewhat part of your personality and your standard of living. And I'm not the type of person to tell you what's wrong or right or which way to live. I live my life in the gray area, but I think having a beginner's mind, especially when you're in the business of clients or servicing or a leader, you have to be okay with implementing that Shoshin mentality. You have to be okay with not knowing everything or knowing nothing at all, or knowing a lot and still being able to admit that you know nothing at all. Back when I was playing football in San Diego for the team, our head coach was Mike March. And during one of our team meetings, we're going over film, and he mentions something at the end of the film session. And he says, "Men, the moment you think you got it figured out, you lost." And it really resonated with me because I'm someone who's always aimed to have it figured out. And I felt that when I finally had it figured out, I was good. So when he said this, when you think you have it all figured out, you lost. It really took me back. It really, it made me uncomfortable in that moment, if I can be honest. But as time went on and I started to understand what he meant, and what he meant was that you can never think you have it figured out. You can always get better. And it's exhausting to always want to get better and do better. So you don't have to make big quantum leaps. But in that moment, what he meant was we always have to be willing to improve our game, to look at our film, to be critical, to ask questions, to improve on the small things, to change our postures on the field, to tackle better, to play better, to come with more energy. There's always a little bit more you can do to improve. And while you may not always make great improvements or great chunks of improvements in a small time frame, there is room there. And that's how I still govern my life. And that's how I still lead my life. And when I have the opportunity to lead others, either tell them advice or give them counsel, I take that idea of there's always a little bit more. And it's annoying. No one likes to hear that there's always a little bit more when they've been working really hard to do something. But that has been something that I really have been able to adjust to and be okay with. So being the dumbest person in the room is admitting that, hey, I'm a perfectionist, or hey, I'm really good at something, but there's still room for more. And this person may know more than I do, or they may know less, or they may have a different perspective than the one that I have. And I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to hear them out, regardless of whether I think their information makes sense or is relevant to me. I'm willing to just hear them speak because I'm looking for a small fraction of value. I don't care if it's a 0.0001% of value. If they can give that to me, then I'm willing to listen to them. And that has to be your mentality going forward as you grow as individuals, grow as leaders, and grow as people in the society, and grow as the person you want to be. Grow that vision of yourself. That vision of who you want to be starts and ends with how much you're willing to learn and apply. So just wanted to come on, talk about that idea of the dumbest person in the room. And I hate that it's that type of analogy, but it's that analogy because it's meant to tell you that you really have to go into new environments or find new environments and just be willing to step in and learn and learn. And when you get the opportunity to speak, don't speak as if you are the smartest person in the room. Maybe you are, but speak as if you're here, you're intelligent, you're producing value, but you're still willing to learn. Everyone's somewhere for some reason. Remember that. And whatever that reason may be is important. And I want to emphasize again, it doesn't matter how small the value you're getting, it's still valuable. It's still valuable. So go out there, continue to lead, continue to grow, and continue to be willing to take in new ideas and new perspectives because you don't know everything. And the moment you think you do, you lost. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Unnatural Born Leader Podcast. I am continuing to work on the book. Got through the first edit, got through the second edit, got through the copyright edit, got through the grammar editing, got the sample copy, edit the sample copy. Now we're on the last set of revisions, and it's been a journey, but it's a beautiful thing. And writing this book and publishing this book has taught me a lot about myself, a lot about the creative world, a lot about doing things the right way. And I just feel enthusiastic when I get the opportunity to work on the book. And I know I wanted to have it out by now, but I'm learning still. And I can admit that I'm learning still. And some of the greatest gifts I've got from playing sports is being able to adjust and change direction and pivot when need be without beating myself up about it. So I'm going to continue to work on the book and try to get it out before the end of the year. So, The Greatest Fight Within, Overcoming Self-Disappointment While Living with High Expectations is the title. And I can't wait to get it out to you guys. So thank you for tuning in. And don't forget that positivity is contagious and attitude is everything. Have a good one. Talk to you guys soon.